Welcome back to another week of GRB, or Gaming Revival Bulletin for those of you that don't know. I am your host, Zio, with my co-host here, Panda.
Woo!
This week we are going over a topic of a game that both of us picked up when it hit early access. It's My Time at Sandrock. It's a post-apocalyptic, technically, simulation. It's a crafting, builder, survival-esque game. It has very cartoony elements, so it's very reminiscent of older PlayStation 2 games that were kind of like the dark builders and stuff like that, as well as many RPG mechanics. It's a pretty interesting and really cool aesthetic looking game.
So, in My Time at Sandrock, a lot of it's based off of your character or your individual coming in as a brand new builder to a kind of critical area in the game setting, that being a kind of the middle point between multiple different cities. Unfortunately, based off of progress through the game, you find out that you and another individual are the new builders in town, and essentially you're there to help build and make the city that much better at the end of the day. So with that being said, you spend a lot of time crafting, going out and getting resources. A lot of your early game is based off of you just running out there, going up to little nodes, collecting a little wood scrap here, a little stone, some twine, and as you progress throughout the game, you kind of start going into better harvestable items, and including upgrades to your weapons so you can get higher tier quality items. Something that I find very interesting is that this is a desert location with a little oasis.
Which is kind of different from everything else that they've done so far.
Yeah.
It's the opposite of that.
Yeah. So it's kind of a neat setting in regards to what they've done. And essentially, it's a giant desert, and you're essentially on top of an entire old city. And so one of the big things is that for like spelunking is that you go down into these caves or ruins to collect resources. That's really where you get a lot of like your metal ingots, and as you progress, you unlock new locations to harvest out of. I know that in my playthrough of it, I'm a bit further along. There should be some video footage of it, or possibly not. So you might have to cut this out.
There is.
But yeah, so like as you're going through, there's that level of progression. I know that initially, like when we started this, I stated that I was like hardcore, like I just play multiplayer games with all my friends, and for some reason this really sucked me in. Like, I don't know what it was about this game. Like, I hardcore no life this game for probably a week or two.
It was. I would say it's a little long. It was about 2-3 weeks. Every time I'd come on, I'd be like, "Hey, who wants to play?" And I'd see you at My Time at Sandrock on Discord, and I was like, oh, "Okay, he's getting in. He's getting in." That's why I got it, because I saw you playing it so much.
Yeah, I like the entire atmosphere that it does portray. It's super nice. As an individual myself, I'm a very positive and uplifting person. I feel like sometimes, granted, I will admit I curse a lot. It's not intentional. It's more or less that's just how I feel as an individual.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, there's a lot of value that it comes out of that game on the surface, that it's like it does spread a lot of positivity. However, as you start to interact with some of the characters in the game, you start to see dark pasts start to kind of crop up.
Yeah, with a very cartoony element.
Yeah.
Yet there's some very, very dark and serious undertones to it.
Yeah, I mean, like, outside of the main thing of having a bandit that's kind of been weighing havoc on the city,
waylaying trains and such.
Yeah. One of the stories or the little tidbits that I know that I kind of came across, mind you, I don't spend a lot of time talking to the characters in game. Like, I just do the normal run up, spam the button. All right, I talk to this person.
Spacebar, I'm done with you.
But one of the characters, one of their backstories that I learned about was the fact that she was a single mother
Mm-hmm.
that left her daughter at a different city to start an entertainment complex.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa, wait. So you left your daughter with your mother to come to this city so you can start an entire, like, entertainment. And I don't mean, like, entertainment and bad. I don't want to say bad, but, like...
You don't mean, like, adult entertainment.
Yeah.
You mean,
but it's, like, games and she's running a museum. So it was just, like, one of those kind of, like, wow, like... Well, that was one of those moments where I realized, like, on this, like, super sunny exterior... If you actually deep dive into some of these characters, there is some dark things that these people have been through, and kind of draws you into it a bit more, and it gets you more emotional about it.
It's like there's a whole Wild West theme where it's like deserty, but there's like canyons and, you know, tumbleweed and all that. So it's very Wild West. Even some of the main enemies in there, the geckos, they wear cowboy hats and stuff like that, and they come at you with 6-shooters. Like, it's very cartoony. A lot of the monsters in the game are just very cartoony, so that's why it's like, it has a cartoony look. All the monsters and enemies and bad guys have very cartoony looks. And then it crosses over where, yeah, you have these really dark tones. Like, you start talking to someone, you're like, oh, this got real quick. Like, yeah, I abandoned my child, and another, you're like, hold on, this is... it's really interesting. I feel like they're definitely doing really well at the game. So, like, their audience seems kind of like at a weird little crossroad where they're not exactly going for kids, but they're also going for kind of an older genre. But it's kind of, with the publisher, it's kind of in line with the games that they've made in the past. Mm-hmm. Where they have all those different, like, all the different things you can do. And the big thing about the game, as opposed to, like, to me, it's more reminiscent of a game like Animal Crossing or a game like Stardew, where it's more, instead of like you're focused on the farming aspect, even though that is in the game, it's more focusing on the crafting and building one, which is all the tasks and stuff are like time based. It's all like real time, and it ticks down. And then you do the tasks, and you build different things like forges. You build all different sorts of boards, like wood cutting and stuff like that. You build a whole bunch of different stuff on your little property, and then you get quests and side quests, and then you get mail-in quests and all this stuff that they really like. It's almost like overloading you with, like, it's a lot of like quick validation stuff, especially when you get like with the job board, and you start doing jobs where they want you to craft a couple wooden sticks, which wood's hard to come by, so it's a little more difficult depending on what items you're going for.
Oh, hey, I finally remembered his name. Burgers.
That's all, builder.
Shut the fuck up, I will fucking laser you with a...
Like, you'll do quests and stuff where you have to get the wood and stuff like that, and then you go and you turn it in, you get some money and XP and stuff like that. So that aspect is very small and rewarding, where it keeps the in-between doing the larger quests, where it's a nice progression where you do a couple small things and then you do a big thing, and then you just keep this going, where you have your time allotment in the day, just like in Stardew or Harvest Moon, where you have kind of a shorter, narrow time chop, where if you stay up too late, your character gets tired or you pass out, and then that really ruins you the next day, which is kind of hard, especially when they do hammer in a lot of quests early on.
Yeah, like, early on, like, it does seem very rough. However, I kind of found a point where I'm now at like a transition phase of the game where I'm not quite, like, I'm into like the mid portion of the game, or at least from my understanding, I'm at least at what's currently available.
Yeah.
So like that's going to be like one of the things that we talk about, is their constant updates and this being an early access, and they continue to push new stuff. But with me being at the point I was, it was just kind of like, all right, I've kind of hit this point where I have enough resources to kind of mitigate that board while also being able to sit down and do the main quest lines, and still have enough energy to kind of just do whatever I wanted for the day.
Yeah, a lot of it too, it's a lot of managing your energy, because you have your energy bar, and you have to pretty much pick and choose what you do throughout the day, because it's going to bleed that out. Whereas once you get much higher level, you have a much bigger energy bar. It's a lot more worthwhile. We're gonna like talking about it, it seems like with the time management in the game, like it is a little more crunched, given there are options to kind of reduce it and cut that down and try and get more time in the day, so to speak. But another thing too that just went into the early access phase is the closed alpha for the multiplayer.
Yes. Which, in all reality, that when I was searching for it, that was kind of the big kind of stepping stone I took to actually committed to buying it, was the whole aspect of there being multiplayer. So it'll be interesting to see how the multiplayer works, especially with the whole time management, having a allocated amount of stamina. Something I did want to bring up is, like, I know that you had a bunch of questions about the farming when we were setting up for this.
Yeah. I haven't gotten that far in the game. I haven't gotten to the farming.
To be honest, so like one of the big things that they try and set up for the game is the fact that you need to like eat and go visit this restaurant essentially, and going there helps you restore your stamina points essentially. Like there's food for stamina, there's food for like health buffs, strength buffs, for like combat.
Oh, I never go in there. I just straight up murder animals by the dozen.
Yeah. But yeah, so like you have the ability to increase your stamina pool just by eating food.
Yeah.
And so like farming essentially becomes a very critical point to it. But again, farming turned out to be like one of the more difficult things to do because again, you're in a desert.
Yeah.
Trying to set up a nice big enough farm so you can at least like mitigate some of the costs to increasing your stamina. It took me a lot of time to get to that point where it was like, oh, actually I can actually start saving money by not having to run to the restaurant and make stuff, whereas I can just make my own food now.
Yeah.
But it was definitely a decent chunk of time into the game before I even like got to that point.
Which they are, again, the game's in early access, so there's a lot of like checks and balances as to what's there. And I don't even think farming's fully fleshed out. It's just, this is the baseline for it. I feel like they need to introduce farming sooner, because like stamina regen, they should get on sooner. But again, adding multiplayer kind of changes the whole dynamic.
Yeah.
If you have a stamina pool of beginning of the game of 100, 150, and you play with a friend, you now have a combined stamina pool with 300 or 200, whatever. You're doubling. And depending on how many people you get involved in the game, you're just making it more and more. That's why, like, I always think, like, the people that made, like, the multiplayer mod for Stardew and stuff, I'm like, that's crazy, because once you add multiplayer to those, you break the balance of the game. But the game doesn't necessarily have to be balanced. It's a game where you're getting enjoyment for it. When you talk about balance, I think the only thing that ever matters in is games that have like PvP. We talked about like I got into a huge thing with someone about balance in games, and we were talking about Total War, and I was like, yeah, the second you add another player, the economy's broken, everything's broken. It's just you rolling around on AI armies, and that's it. And that's essentially what it is. So I think it's. Going forward, I think once they actually implement multiplayer, it's going to be interesting to see how they handle that and how they address that, whether they increase stamina or like increase stamina costs, or if they decrease stamina pools and like or buff everything up and make things harder. That'd be really interesting to see how they try to fix that.
Right.
So it's not as much of not as hard on the time management system.
Yeah, and outside of the time management system, they do things also to try and help you as your character to grow. They do have skill trees.
Yes.
So there's actually 4 different skill trees. Sorry, I'm terrible about the camera that is in front of me, so I apologize to everybody. I'm terrible at that.
You knew my Padawan.
Yeah. But yeah, so there's a gathering tree, which pretty much helps you with gathering resources. There's a workshop, which helps speed up production time. You gain more experience through production of items.
The gathering tree, like right now, all the trees aren't like fully fleshed out, right?
No, most of the trees are still, they have like locked screens on a bunch of stuff. However, since I last played and then I got us content for this video, like there has like so there's updates to all that stuff. So
Yeah.
like it was kind of amazing to see like, oh, I have a reason to go back and play this now.
Yeah.
There's a combat tree and then there's a social tree. So and essentially the premise behind all those is really to kind of help give you buffs to increase experience faster, because there is still a leveling system to the game as you do move forward. It's the level, from my understanding, doesn't really pertain to much at this point.
No, I
It's
feel like
just-
there's several experience bars, because if you do more combat, you get a point into combat, right?
Yeah.
And like if you do, as your overall XP just increases your health along with your stamina and a couple extra small things. Like it's almost independent. It's almost like a RuneScape level of like of character progression. Where like this guy's level 99, but he's just his strength build. Like just duke on him. It's easy. So I don't know. Like that part. I don't think the main levels really matter, other than just showing off on people who jump into your lobby.
I'm like, there is like for combat, like especially like because early on, obviously trying to fight as a level 1, trying to fight a level 5 creature is relatively difficult.
Yeah,
But
it
now,
feels very
like-
Dark Soulsy.
Yeah, but now at like level 18, I just kind of like walk over them with the upgraded weapons, so it's just kind of like whatever.
Oh yeah, I just run up and spear.
Except for
everything
the
with them.
new, I forgot what their names are, but they are kangaroos.
Oh, the boxing kangaroos.
Yeah, I was like, yeah. Like for the longest part of that game, I didn't use like the dodge mechanic up until I started fighting one of those dudes, and then that's when I finally started utilizing the roll mechanic that's actually in the game.
I'm curious to see where they plan on putting the level cap at. Because right now it feels like it's like mid-20s, like all the NPCs are kind of about that level. But that kangaroo is like level 40, isn't it?
No, it's 20.
Or is it 20? I don't know. I feel like I'm curious as to where they put the level cap at.
I mean, like it'll be interesting, but at the same time, there is still a lot of like content that I think they can build off of in this game.
Yeah.
Like sitting down and looking at all the different landmarks that they have, like just visually up that you can see that actually seem like you can walk to.
It has a massive map.
Yes.
Absolutely massive. Oh, I think there's also a background way to get into the mines, by the way, or the ruins. The main ruins that you have to pay to get into.
I haven't found it.
I may have found it.
I just pay. I mean, like I'm rolling in what goals?
Yeah,
goals.
they use a different type of money. But the main publisher of the game, kind of sorry to jump there. The main publisher of the game is Panthea Games, and they went early access with this in the 25th of May. So it's been out for a little while now. So we've been steadily seeing updates come in as we've been playing it, and yeah, they're doing really well so far. They have a lot of different events and stuff like that going on, but the publisher also has done other games in the past. They've done My Time in Portia, Planet Explorers, and Super Buckyball. So like, other than Buckyball, you know, it's kind of like the same vibe they're going for. They do what they do quite well. This game has over 7K positive Steam reviews, which is pretty nuts for an early access, relatively indie game. I think that's kind of crazy, and especially that many positive reviews. It's shaping up to be a pretty good game once it hits out of early access. So honestly, right now, I would say even within an early access, I know a lot of people that don't like buying into early access. I'd recommend it.
Oh yeah.
If you like RPGs and story-driven dialogue, then this is the game for you.
Like I said, is like I'm not one to like hardcore get trapped into something like that. I'm more of an MMO type of individual when it comes down to the RPGs. But I 100% just like got sucked into this thing like it was no one's business. And I do look forward to seeing what else they do create out of it at the end of the day.
Yeah.
I hope that the community for them stays strong and continues to support them. Because I even went back to look at My Time in Portia, and like you can tell like it's still relatively the same kind of genre, but at the same time, or not genre, but like the artwork and the styling are all relatively similar, but the quality has gotten significantly better in this one.
Yeah. It's definitely come leaps and bounds as to where it's supposed to be at. Did you have anything else you wanted to like add on about it? I feel like we hit all of our talking points, I feel.
Yeah. Something that I wanted to bring up that I thought was really cool is the whole aspect of like at the end of or like the beginning or end of any of your main quest lines, there's typically some form of cutscene, and they kind of have like a photo book, so you kind of get to see your adventure or as you continue to grow. I know that other games have that kind of mechanic, but for some reason they do it very well in the aspect of like, here you go, this is your cutscene with your character, this is what you get to see in view. So at the end of the day, super proud of what they've created.
Hopefully they get it all wrapped up and they do well with what they've made so far. Like I said, I've enjoyed it, and I don't see them stopping. They have contests and interviews and stuff like that, as well as like monthly patch notes that they seem to be doing really well at. So it seems like they're well on track with what they're doing, and they obviously they have games before that they have a track record of following through on. So I don't think this is really going to be like an abandonment situation.
Best believe though, expect us, both of us, some multiplayer action as soon as we get access to this.
Yeah.
Like
we could re-roll characters on some multiplayer action.
Oh yeah, I'd be down. Like personally, I don't want to start over as a single, but I am 100% down to start over as a multiplayer.
Oh yeah, because I want to get a farm up and running. Like I want to get everything up and running as quick as humanly possible. Like day 2, and they're like, we need some copper, and we're already producing bronze.
It's like,
I just want to like the sweaty casual. That's what I'm going for.
because we already are sweaty casuals when it comes down to the games we play.
Yeah. Alright, man. Let's hear it. Do you want me to break off from there and get into our end segment?
Sure.
So, that's going to conclude our little segment right here about my time at Sandrock. All in all, great game. Recommend. Highly recommend. It is a lot of fun. A lot more fun than you'd think it would be. For those that don't normally play the type of games. And then that kind of leads me to our next topic, because that brings us to what we're going to do next week. If you want to get in on picking what we do or kind of help give some feedback as to what we do, you can check the Discord link down below, in which case you can join our Discord, talk to us, hang out with us. And like I've been trying to do like a couple things where I've been trying to feel people out and see what they think we should be making, or like any sort of topics they'd like to touch down on. But next week we're looking at, because our Milsim video got so much likes, so much attention and so much comments from so many. Wow.
Someone's too used to Twitch at this point. Welcome to YouTube, by the way.
Welcome to YouTube. Yeah. We're gonna talk about survival games, all the way from way back in the day with Oregon Trail. Yep, that's technically a survival game. Come at me, fight me. And then we'll go to stuff like Minecraft, which is arguable, at hardcore games like DayZ, or personally Scum. We'll be able to do a huge breakdown on that and talk about our personal favorites and what we like. This week, that's kind of been my whole thing, is learning more on video editing. If you noticed from my personal channel, I did an upload of a video on there where I was working on a whole lot of dissolves and trying to make everything look real fancy, nice, and beautiful. But yeah, I think that's all I have for this week, and I'll see you guys next week.
Alright. First of all, I want to say thank you to Zio for taking and dedicating so much time to learning and understanding the software to try and help improve. I'm to be honest, I'm more of the I just show up kind of deal right now because of work.
I'm in a perpetual state of confusion.
Yeah. But yeah, so I appreciate you for taking the time to learn that stuff to
Thank
help
you, buddy.
the channel better. The second thing I want to give a shout out is to this Discord server, Tipsy's House of Business. You guys know
Hey,
who
boys.
you are. We just want to say thank you for all the love, support that you guys have been giving towards us.
Really?
Out of all the Discord groups, you guys were surprisingly the #1 group that's been really there to help support us. So we just want to say thank you, and we appreciate you guys. And
You
the
said it. I
yeah,
didn't.
well, yeah, he didn't. He doesn't care.
Nah, I appreciate you.
But my last note is that some of you might know that we, or at least myself, was previously DMing a Dungeons and Dragons campaign for Zio's community. Don't worry, we got D&D being worked on, and hopefully something that we're going to set up and get going soon. Soon being give us like a month or so to kind of get things worked out. Try and figure out logistics, possibly have a individual that's willing to DM for us on a consistent schedule, so that way we can continue to bring a more consistent schedule of entertainment for everybody else out there. So we got some things that we're working on, always trying to improve, and just want to say love you guys.
Really. It's just adding really. It's true. We do love you. No, we really appreciate all the love and support we've gotten from these videos. It does mean so much to us. We are trying, like we said, to bring you as much content as possible, and we're trying to master and work on the crafts that we are doing. We are putting a lot of time and effort into this, and we are scrambling all the way up into the last minute to try and get you guys. Like, we sat here for like a half hour trying to figure out structure and stuff like that.
A half hour? It was like an hour.
It was like, well, you know, time, you know, that just, yeah. So that kind of brings us to our point here. Just again, thank you all.
Have a fantastic week.
Yeah. Toodles!